In this video, I will be going over all things you need to know about dot plots, how to make them, how to read them, and how to balance them. So when creating a dot plot, you will be given a set of numbers that you will have to then put onto this dot plot. So the first thing, of course, is I always need a title. And so let's say these numbers here are about how many books each student in our class read last month. So I'm going to think, what is this? What are these numbers mostly about? Well, they're about books read by students in the last month. Now I need to add numbers to this line. So I'm going to look at the numbers I have up here. My smallest one is 3, my biggest one is 10, so it's probably pretty reasonable to go from 0 to 10. That's not too many numbers. And since it's not very many numbers, I can just count by ones. So my number line for my dot plot will look like this. Now, wherever I see a number, I'm going to put a dot above that number on the dot plot. So I have 1, 3, so therefore I will put 1 dot above the 3. I have 1, 4, so I will put 1 dot above the 4. I have 2 5s, so I will put 2 5s, or 2 dots above the 5. 1 7, so dot above the 7, 2 8s, so 2 dots above the 8s, 3 9s, so that means 3 dots above the 9, and then 1 10, so 1 dot above the 10. And that is how you create a dot plot. If you would like extra practice, you can do this problem now. Create a dot plot for this data representing the number of hours each student in the class slept last night. So here's our data. You're going to create the graph, making sure you have all of the requirements we talked about on the previous slide. So this is the graph that you should have, making sure you have the same number of dots above each number that I do. And also very important, make sure you have a label here. It should be something similar to number of hours slept. It's describing what we're talking about up here. If you don't have this on your test, you would lose a point. It's very important that we have this label. So now I can do the reverse of what I just did. So this time I'm starting with the dot plot, and I am going to write the numbers that are represented in this dot plot. So for example, there's 1 dot above the 1, so this represents 1 1. There are 3 dots above the 2, so this represents 3 2s. There are 2 dots above the 3, which represents 2 3s. 1 dot above the 4 represents a 4. 3 dots above the 5, 3 5s. 2 dots above the 6, 2 6s, 1 dot above the 7, 1 7. So this is a useful thing to know how to do, because when we are asked questions, we're given a dot plot and it says to find the minimum, find the maximum, what's the median? Questions like that where we are finding the data landmarks, it's a lot easier to find them with a list of numbers rather than these dots. Because now I can look and easily say, okay, the minimum here is 1, here's the maximum, 7, the median, I can cross off till I get to the middle, 4, here's my median, my range, maximum minus the minimum, 7 minus 1, 6. So these data landmarks are a lot easier when I'm looking at the list of numbers. I can even do the mode. I have 3 2s, I have 3 5s, so in this case I have 2 modes. The mode is the only one you can have 2 numbers for. I can even do the mean when given these numbers. But the point here is, instead of looking here, write down what these dots represent. It will help you so much more to find what these data landmarks are looking at the numbers. If you would like to practice this on your own, you can do this problem here. So your job is, you have this dot plot, and you're going to write down the numbers that these dots represent. Pause the video and play it when you're done to check the answers. This is what you should have had right here, noticing that every dot represents a number in my list. For every dot I have a number. Now, if you would like extra practice on how to take this dot plot and answer questions like what's the minimum, what's the maximum, what's the range, the mode, median, mean, you can watch my video on data landmarks. That will walk you through how even more detail on how to get from this step to finding what's the minimum, maximum, all those data landmarks. So the last type of problem on your test that you might see about dot plots would be balancing them. So this problem says to place the fulcrum to balance the dot plot. So the fulcrum is the little triangle that you put underneath the dot plot somewhere to balance it. So in order to balance the dot plot, we need to find the mean. This is where what we did on the slide before comes in handy. So to help me find the mean, I'm going to write down first what each one of these dots represent. So I have one dot above the 1, so I have 1, 1, 3 dots above the 2, so I have 3 2s, 1 dot above the 4, 1, 4, 1 dot above the 7, 1, 7. Now I'm going to find the mean of these numbers, so I need to add all of them up. I'm going to do that now. And to help me add, let me see if I can find any easy groups to add. Well, I know 7 plus 3 is 10. I can make 3 here. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 7, 10. 2 plus 2 is 4. Well, I'm left with a 4, so 4 plus 4, 8. So in the end, I'm left with 10 plus 8 is 18. Now I am going to divide by how many numbers I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I will do 18 divided by 6, which I know is 3. So in this case, the mean of these numbers is 3. So now all I have to do is place my fulcrum, or the little triangle, right at 3. Notice how I didn't draw it up there. I drew it right underneath the line, just like this. Here's a problem for you to practice. Here's your dot plot. You are going to place the fulcrum where it needs to go to balance the dot plot. So follow the steps that we just did together and pause the video, try it. When you're done and you have your answers, play the video again to check to see if you got it right. So this is what you should have gotten. Before you did any of these steps, your first thing is to write out what each one of these dots represent in numbers. Then I find the mean. So I added 1, 2, 2, 5, 5. Found nice groups to add, so I ended with 10 plus 5. My total here is 15. Then I divide by how many numbers I have, which in this case was 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So my mean is 3. And all I have to do is place the fulcrum, or the little triangle, right on the 3. And that is where my dot plot is balanced. The other kind of question you might see about balancing dot plots would be something like this. Add a dot to balance the dot plot at 4. So it already tells us where the dot plot is balanced. It's at 4. The triangle, or the little fulcrum, is already in here. So instead of figuring out where the triangle goes, I need to draw a dot on the dot plot somewhere to make sure that the dot plot balances at 4, or in other words, the mean is 4. So first I'm going to start off by seeing what I have right now. I have 2 dots above 1, so 2 ones, and 1 dot above the 5, so I have a 5. Where I'm at right now, I'm going to see what the mean would be. 1, 1, 5, I add these up. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 5 is 7. Then I divide by how many I have, 7 divided by 3. Well, 3 goes into 7 2 times with 1 left over. Could keep going through the math, but basically I can see that this is definitely not going to be 4. So right now this does not balance at 4. So I need to add 1 more dot so it balances at 4. So the mean is 4. So when I add all of these up, I'm going to, so 1 plus 1 plus 5 plus blank, I'm going to get some amount. And then when I'm finding the mean, I take whatever this total is and I divide by how many I have. So whatever this is, I'm going to divide by, well, how many numbers would I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, including this mystery one. So I divide by the 4 that I have, and in the end I want my mean to be 4. That's where my dot plot is balancing. So I want it to be an answer of 4. So now I can go backwards to figure out what some of these numbers would be. So something divided by 4 equals 4. Well, I can use the reverse, the opposite of division, multiplication. 4 times 4, 16. So I know that 16 divided by 4 will equal 4. So then I can go back up here. This has to be 16 then. So now I can figure out what this mystery number is. Right now, with just 1 plus 1 plus 5, I already added over here, it is a total of 7. So right now I have 7, and I want to equal 16. So what do I have to add to 7 to equal 16? 7 plus what equals 16? My answer would be 9. 7 plus 9 equals 16. So this 9 tells me where I need to add my last dot. So at 9 on my dot plot, I will draw 1 more dot. So now here's a similar problem for you to practice on your own. Add another dot to balance the dot plot at 5. So you already know the triangle or the fulcrum will be at 5, but figure out we need to add 1 more dot. Where would that go to make sure that this triangle is at the right spot, that the mean really is 5? So in a second, pause the video, try it out following the same steps we just did on the problem before. When you're done, play the video to check your answers. Here is the answer that you should have gotten. When you draw the other points on your dot plot, it should be at 4. Let me explain to you the work that I did. So before I did anything, I listed out these numbers here. So I said, okay, 2 dots above 4, 2 4s, a dot above 8. Then I figured out, all right, just what I have right now, what's the mean? So 4 plus 4, 8 plus 8, 16. Then I divide 16 by how many numbers I have. 1, 2, 3. 16 divided by 3. 5, remainder 1. So it's close to 5, but it's not exactly 5. So right now it's not balancing at exactly 5, which is where I need it to. So I need to add in 1 more dot to make sure that it balances at exactly 5. So I'm going to add in this extra dot here. So I know that when I find the mean, first I'll need to add up the numbers that I have. So 4 plus 4 plus 8 plus whatever the mystery one is, it'll equal some number. That number I divide by how many dots I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I add this mystery one in, and I want the mean to equal 5. So it'll equal 5. So I figure out what is this mystery. Well, 20 divided by 4 is 5, so this will be 20, which means when I add it up, my total will be 20. Right now, with just these three dots, I have 16. So I think 16 plus what equals 20? Well, 16 plus 4 equals 20. So that means when I draw my dot, it'll go at 4. 4 is the mystery number. Hopefully now you have a little bit of a better understanding of how to read dot plots, how to make dot plots, and then finally how to balance them.